Hello, happy Thanksgiving, and welcome to episode 95 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. We have a jam-packed show for you today. Marisa from Chicago will be back on the show to start our conversation about childless Disney adults. I know that one's going to be a little controversial. We'll also hear from Sarah Says, who has a preview of Epcot's International Festival of the Holidays, which officially starts tomorrow, Black Friday. Before we get to that, there are two major events that I would like to address. First of all, there was huge news on Sunday evening with Bob Chapek resigning as CEO of Disney, being replaced by the former CEO, Bob Iger. There have been a lot of people talking about this move and speculating about what it means for the company and specifically with the theme parks. I'm sure we'll hear opinions from Marisa and Sarah on this topic, but it's still too early to tell what changes may be coming as a result of the switch in leadership. Bob Chapek made a number of unpopular moves. Many we have discussed in past episodes. Many of those decisions would have been made no matter who was in charge of Disney, and we can't say that Iger would have acted any differently. I think it's safe to say, at the very least, Bob Iger is much better at public relations than Bob Chapek. This fact alone may lead to some more positive feelings from Disney fans. I do want to give Bob Chapek credit for two things, however. Of course, he took over the company during the most uncertain time in recent history. Whether or not you liked every decision he made about the parks, he was the one who successfully reopened them without huge incidents. As someone who returned to Walt Disney World within the first week of reopening, I can say that those first few months were handled very professionally. I'm going to knock on wood here when I say this, but to the best of my knowledge, I have not gotten COVID at any point since the beginning of the pandemic. That includes going to the parks regularly since reopening. I have friends with pre-existing conditions. I have family members with pre-existing conditions. Bob Chapek's safety measures kept us from getting sick. I was a travel agent at the time, and I was able to confidently tell clients that I believe Disney was doing everything possible to keep them safe. I will always appreciate how Bob Chapek handled the start of the pandemic, especially when he was basically thrown to the wolves. Bob Chapek was also the CEO who was in charge when the park started to update the dress code rules for cast members. This gave CMs the flexibility to show non-offensive tattoos and began allowing a number of additional hairstyles, especially some styles that are more racially inclusive. I personally know a number of cast members who really appreciate this. As I mentioned, we will talk a lot more about the change in leadership in the coming weeks and months. There has also been some much more serious news. On Saturday, a 22-year-old gunman entered an LGBTQ plus nightclub in Colorado Springs and killed 5 people. This is a situation that is dangerously similar to the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. While I wasn't living in the area at the time of the Pulse shooting, I have visited the location, and it is somber and a moving experience. That tragedy made an impact on Central Florida, as I know this incident in Colorado Springs will leave a void in that community that will never fully heal. We're entering the holiday season, and we know how hard that can be on so many people who don't feel the acceptance of family members. In the next few weeks, we're going to be engaging in a fun game of Harry Potter trivia. Obviously, we try to be as understanding as possible when talking about Harry Potter, due to the actions of the creator of the series. It has always been our goal to create a community with this podcast that is accepting of all good people. We try to create a safe space, not because people are too weak to address these hard issues, but because there should be places where they can relax and know they will not be vilified. They are strong enough to deal with these fears every single day. In June, I walked across Ireland to raise money for survivors of domestic violence. We want to provide some fun entertainment on this podcast, especially for those vulnerable members of our community. We will not accept any hate towards members of the LGBTQ plus community, people of color, of course, survivors of domestic violence and abuse. We are here for all of you. If you feel lonely this holiday season, you can always find me on Twitter at Rick_ear, or Sarah and Marisa if you would feel more comfortable talking with a female. Sarah is at Sarah Says 84 and Marisa is at Think Mickey Blog. You can't stay neutral on a moving train, and I wanted to take a quick moment to let you know that we are always going to fight to have the most inclusive community as possible. Now, let's get to the fun. Here is Sarah Says with a look at the next festival coming to Epcot in Walt Disney World.
Thanks, Rick. This episode is going live on Thanksgiving Day, which means that I can say tomorrow, November 25th, will mark the official start to Epcot's International Festival of the Holidays. The event will last through December 30th. One of the most popular features of the festival is the Candlelight Processional, in which celebrity narrators share the nativity story with the backing of an orchestra and choir. Some of the more high-profile celebrities reading the Bible account of Jesus' birth will be Whoopi Goldberg, Josh Gad, Courtney Vance, Angela Bassett, Gloria Estefan, Neil Patrick Harris, Marie Osmond, Mariska Hargitay, and for some reason, Cal Ripken Jr. The performances take place at 5:15, 7, and 8:30 p.m. at American Gardens Theater. To secure seating in advance, guests can purchase a Candlelight Processional dinner package. These include Acacius, Beer Garden, Coral Reef, Garden Grill, Le Cellier, or Rose and Crown. Regal Eagle Smokehouse will be doing a craft drafts and barbecue package that can only be purchased same day, and Spice Road Table will also have a same-day dining package option. Epcot's International Festival of the Holidays will mark the return of the popular Holiday Cookie Stroll. Purchase 5 cookies from any of the official Cookie Stroll locations, making sure you get your festival passport stamped, and you will get a special treat at the Holiday Sweets and Treats booth. There will be a total of 8 cookies throughout the stroll this year, which means that you have more of an option to skip any selections that do not appeal to you. No Epcot festival is complete without a scavenger hunt, and that is why Olaf's Holiday Tradition Expedition will be there for Anna and Elsa's favorite snowman to teach about some different holiday traditions throughout the world. The map for the scavenger hunt is $9.99, and you will receive a special holiday keepsake for completion. Maps can be purchased at the Creations Shop, Port of Entry, and World Traveler at International Gateway. At the front of World Showcase, you can catch multiple performances of Joyful, a celebration of the season. This show is a celebration of Christmas and Kwanzaa traditions with gospel, R&B, and other holiday songs. These performances will take place 4 times per day at World Showcase Plaza. The highlight of the festival, however, might be the storytellers at the different pavilions in World Showcase. These storytellers include Las Posadas Celebration in the Mexican Pavilion. Make special note that this performance only takes place Sunday through Thursday. Every day of the week, you can catch a mischievous magical barn Santa in the Norway Pavilion, La Befana, the kind-hearted witch in Italy, Santa Claus at the Odyssey Pavilion, Daruma Storyteller in Japan. Between Morocco and France, you can catch the Hanukkah Storyteller. Père Noël is in France. Father Christmas will ring in the season at the UK Pavilion, and you can see the Canadian Holiday Voyagers at the Canada Pavilion. Epcot's International Festival of the Holidays is the shortest festival at Epcot. After it closes down on December 30th, Epcot's International Festival of the Arts will take over from January 13th to February 20th, which is only a few days longer than its holiday counterpart. I'm Sarah Says. I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving. Let's turn things back over to Rick Doherty.
Thank you, Sarah. It's time to welcome Marisa from Chicago. This is her first time on the show in roughly a month, and I know you've been missing her. Well, we brought her back for a spicy topic. Thanks for being back on the show, Marisa.
It is always a pleasure to be on the show.
This is the most clickbait topic that we've ever had on this show. And I think it's about time. We're coming up on 100 episodes, so maybe we need to get a jump in listeners. But we are going to talk about the dreaded childless Disney adults, and we are 2 great people to have on the show talking about this because we are both childless Disney adults. I'm assuming people don't count my 2 cats. So we are going to be talking about this very, very controversial topic. And I think the way I want to start it's going to sound funny, but how did you become a Disney adult? I know that sounds counterintuitive. You just became 18 years old and kept liking Disney, but that's not how it is for everybody. I know when I turned 18, I wasn't going to the Disney parks anymore, and I ended up coming back. So how did it happen for you?
So for me, it was more of that typical Disney fan as a child becoming an adult scenario. But for the theme parks specifically, I hadn't been to the theme parks I hadn't been to Disney World since I was 9 years old. And I had wanted to go back for a long time. And whenever my friends would go, I'd be like, oh, please, we have to go back. Please, can we go back? And my parents were like, we did it. It's fine. We already did that. Don't need to go back there. And so when I graduated college, I planned a trip with a few of my college friends and we went back to Disney World. That hooked me. That's what really hooked me back into the world of the theme parks. And I was just blown away with everything. It was so much fun. I feel like it's a totally different experience as an adult. And it just made me like determined to come back as much as I could. And I ended up going back with my family. I finally talked them into it a couple years later. And they even agreed that Disney as an adult with a bunch of adults is a totally different experience and so much fun. And I guess we can talk about a few of those things that we love about it. But it was definitely theme parks wise not as continuous throughout my life. But I have a hard time seeing that stopping anytime soon.
My trajectory was a little different. We went a bunch when I was a kid. It stopped around the time I was 12 or 13 because then you start getting into your high school sports and you start getting into all of these things that take up so much of your time. Then when I was 24, I went on sort of a spring break trip with a friend where we were going down to Florida for spring training baseball games, but he had gotten divorced and they still had some tickets that you could use before the tickets were designated to an individual person. So I was using his ex-wife's tickets. For Disney, we went like 2 or 3 days to the theme parks. And that was fun, but I never really thought, well, this is something I'm going to keep doing. But then when I moved from Pennsylvania to Arizona and my mother lives in Florida, I thought driving across the country, I should stop and see her because I didn't know when I would get to see her next. And I'm like, if I show up, will you buy 2 days worth of tickets and we'll go to Disney for 2 days? It's so funny now. This was 2015. And there was a Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party at Magic Kingdom. And I didn't even know that was going to be happening. So we had to leave at like 6 o'clock or something. It's so funny how out of the loop I was fairly recently. But we're walking down Main Street, USA to leave the park. I literally said this to my mother who was standing next to me. Hold on. I want to turn around, take this in because I may never see it again. Fast forward 7 years later, and I go every week. But that sort of rekindled my love for it because I was telling Courtney, my wife, about the trip, and she was like, I don't know, it seems childish, which is kind of a good topic for today anyway. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. So I started showing her videos, and we watched those Travel Channel documentaries where Joe Rohde has the big earring and he's talking about creating Animal Kingdom. And that got her more interested in it. And then we went in 2018, and now I'm just a childless Disney adult. And I think you hit the nail on the head by saying there are things about it you see as an adult that you didn't see when you were a kid. There's a reason you go as an adult beyond why you enjoyed it when you were there decades ago.
Definitely. And I think, we all know the magic it holds for children and them getting to meet these characters that they idolize and love so much. But I think as an adult, there's a different sort of magic almost in knowing that the magic isn't real. Knowing some of the behind the curtains things, I think brings a different type of magic to the parks because now you see all the work, all the ingenuity, all the creativity that goes into orchestrating these experiences for guests on a daily basis. And it's just so much more impressive, I think, viewing it from that lens.
It's almost like seeing behind the curtain makes you appreciate it more because you see how they're doing it. A great example of that would be Kilimanjaro Safari, how I talked about watching those documentaries on the Travel Channel. I think it was the Travel Channel. If that's wrong, I'm sorry. I know somebody will probably beat me up for it. But them talking about how they keep the animals separated without you being able to see that the animals are separated. That's the kind of stuff that really interests me. So then I'm looking for this stuff when I'm in the parks, and people might be like, no, you're ruining the magic. No, that's my magic. Seeing how they do these things and looking behind the curtain is what makes it so impressive to me. We've now all gotten to the points where we have jobs and we see behind the curtain of different industries, and it either makes you enjoy them more or it does totally ruin it. But a lot of times I really like thinking about what goes into making these magical memories for everybody. The little details, absolutely love them.
Yeah, they're just absolutely so special. Every little detail that you pick up on, and there are some little things that you can explore and enjoy with everyone, such as like the hidden Mickeys. Those are a fun little detail that everyone can enjoy. And I think things like that don't lose their fun as adults. It's something you can do with your 6-year-old nephew, or it's something you can do on your own with adults only. It's still fun to search for things.
And this might get a little controversial because I know some people feel that the level of service at Walt Disney World in particular has dropped compared to what it was. Listen, when Michael Eisner was in charge of Disney, say what you want about Michael Eisner, but his focus definitely was that quality service. He wanted to make sure that everybody was getting a top level, just customer service experience. So when I was going as a kid, Michael Eisner was the CEO and we were getting that experience. But it literally does bleed over here in Florida. I have worked for organizations that deal with the public and will have meetings and they will say, we are competing with Disney. No, we're not competing with Disney getting people in the door. If people are coming to our thing, we're not competing with Disney on that particular day. What we're competing with is that level of service expectation that is created by Disney. When the public comes here, they may have been at Disney yesterday or they may be at Disney tomorrow, and we have to make sure we're giving them that level of customer service. It is a huge thing. And I think the only reason we feel it has dropped is because it was so high to begin with, but you're still not getting that level of customer service other places.
It's definitely still a higher level of customer service. And it's something that a lot of people will sit and complain about CMs and say cast members are rude or whatever. And I fully reject that notion. I think on the whole, the vast majority of cast members are wonderful. They have to deal with a lot of miserable people every single day in a lot of very hot weather. I could not do it. And I think that a lot of them are very deeply committed to providing that extra level of service, going above and beyond, creating magic moments for families that they didn't expect. And those things absolutely have the potential to just elevate your vacation and make your day so much better. And again, it's the little hidden magics.
We both have the same favorite Walt Disney World resort hotel, and I think it's a very Disney adult hotel. It has all of those aspects that make Disney adults want to continue to go to Walt Disney World, and it's Disney's Wilderness Lodge. And there is nothing childish about getting a book, sitting in front of the fireplace in that lobby, and just relaxing and unwinding. A lot of people put a lot of stress on these Disney vacations, and however you vacation, that's up to you, and I'm not judging anybody as long as you're not hurting anybody or yelling at cast members. But I think there's a Disney adult aspect of actually taking that time to relax, sitting in the lobby at Wilderness Lodge, going to the Carolwood Pacific Room, and just letting the stresses of the world kind of get off your shoulders for a little bit. It's Wilderness Lodge, it's the Polynesian, it's the Riviera. Resorts like this really show me why I do enjoy being a Disney adult. I mean, you just stayed recently at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, and I think that one, while more geared towards kids because kids love animals, but just that type of relaxing environment. You were actually working from Animal Kingdom Lodge, so you got to have that relaxation while you were having a stressful day at work. There's a lot of reasons for an adult to still love Disney.
Absolutely. And piggybacking off that, thinking about being able to relax during your trip, I think one of the best ways for adults to do that is to visit lounges. Disney World has some excellent lounges. A lot of them are in resorts. One of my favorite is Geyser Point Bar and Grill. It's kind of a lounge at Wilderness Lodge. And it's this beautiful outdoor seating area. It's covered, but the sides are all open. You look out on this lake. It's beautiful, got great food, got great drinks. And it's such a nice way to kind of take a step back from the craziness of Disney parks and enjoy a little bit of peacefulness while you eat or drink and rest your feet. It's just such a nice way to enjoy the parks that I think a lot of families with young kids don't, because it doesn't fit the way they travel.
You recently asked on Twitter a question for everybody to list their favorite lounge, and I didn't put Geyser Point only because I didn't know if that counted. But there are some great, great lounges. Enchanted Rose at the Grand Floridian. If you're looking to go fancy and pay a lot of money for a cocktail, and you don't have to drink to enjoy these places. Marisa and I do not drink, but we still go to these places a lot. You'll pay a lot for a cocktail at Enchanted Rose, but the experience is just top notch. And then in the parks, there's some lounges like Baseline Tap House in Disney's Hollywood Studios, one of my favorite places to just hang out for a few minutes in the middle of a busy park day. Nomad Lounge at Disney's Animal Kingdom is just so top notch. It's so good. You can get those Impossible Burger sliders. You can get the bread service that they serve at Tiffin's. It's just a great place to relax in the middle of a busy park day. And I think one of the things that I have noticed going as an adult, and I think this is something you've noticed doing more solo trips or trips with other adults, you don't have to run from ride to ride to ride as much anymore, because when you're not going with kids, maybe you don't have to do the Seas with Nemo and Friends this time. Maybe you can skip Winnie the Pooh this time. It doesn't mean you don't like the ride, but it's not a necessity like it would be if there were kids along in your party and things like that.
Absolutely. Another lounge shout out, Ale and Compass at the Yacht Club. Fabulous lounge. And like you said, we don't drink, but the lounges do a great job of offering mocktails as well if you don't want to drink, which I think is another thing Disney does very, very well, is catering to all adults. You know, I am not an adult who drinks alcohol. However, it's still nice to drink a fun drink and sit back and enjoy something that's not water every once in a while. So they do a great job catering to that as well, making you feel a little bit fancy while you sit in the lounge.
Now, the Disney adult has a bad connotation, and I think that both Marisa and I can understand why some people feel that way, and I kind of wanted to get into some of those bad behaviors from the Disney adults, or some of the reasons that Disney adults may be, I don't want to say creepy, but some of them can be creepy. And I think the first thing I want to mention, and we've talked about this before, is making the cast members, especially character cast members, uncomfortable. I know that with my background, I am definitely way more conscious of this than other people. So I feel like I do a pretty decent job of trying to not make, for example, princesses feel uncomfortable. But there's been a lot of stuff, especially with TikTok and Instagram kind of bleeding into the parks a lot, that's kind of problematic.
Yeah, we definitely see a lot of bad behavior from people who a lot of times are making these kind of aggressive, over the top remarks to characters in the hopes of going viral on Instagram or TikTok and getting attention from it. And I just feel like it's one thing to want your 15 seconds of fame, whatever, you can want that, but it shouldn't come at the expense of making someone else uncomfortable. And if you're doing something that is harassment or borderline harassment to a character, they're still a person. That's not okay. Don't do it.
There was a video that went viral, and it was a while ago. It might even have been like longer than a year ago, where somebody was being inappropriate in an adult manner towards Gaston, and Gaston shut it down, and it went viral, and it was really good, and everybody clapped and like, yeah, so happy that he was able to do this. But I do think we have to remember that there's a difference between Gaston being a male who is already a villain, so can kind of act like a jerk, and everybody be fine with that, and Jasmine or Tiana or Rapunzel, like, they can't do that. And trying to make them break character or making it inappropriate, if you're doing that, you are the worst of the worst, and you are ruining it for everybody, not just other Disney adults, because who really cares if you're ruining it for us? If I can't meet Tiana on this trip, whatever, it's not a big deal for me. But if you ruin it for the kids, if you ruin it for the other people, if you make that experience weird, because when you're meeting Jasmine, there's a kid right behind you who's getting ready to meet Jasmine. So just don't do that kind of stuff. It is, I shouldn't even have to say it, but
It really should go without saying, especially because you want to say, like, hey, we're adults. You should know this by now. And unfortunately, that's not the case. I remember several years ago, I was at the Mickey's Not So Scary Christmas Party. Mickey's Not So Scary Christmas Party. I was at the Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. There you go. There's the right holiday. And I was in line to meet Rapunzel and Flynn. And there was a man in front of me who was making Rapunzel very clearly uncomfortable. She was very, very clearly uncomfortable with the way he was acting towards her and the things he was saying to her. And like you said, she's Rapunzel. She's a sweet princess. She can't exactly get nasty in the same way a villain can. And Flynn ended up having to kind of physically put himself in between the two of them. And the poor character handler was trying to kind of push him out as fast as she could. And I was just thinking, this is such an uncomfortable thing. And here these people are, just trying to do their jobs, just trying to have fun and, keep up the fun appearances of these characters for all these people in line. And this one person is going out of their way to ruin that experience. And, it's just why? Why would you do that?
I forget Entangled, and you're probably going to hold this against me sometime when we do trivia. But I want to say Rapunzel's 18. Was it her 18th?
Yeah, she's very young.
I think it was her 18th birthday was when all the shenanigans happened in the movie. Jasmine's 16. Snow White's 14. You got to remember that, guys. Come on. Like, this is not cool.
We shouldn't even have to talk about it. Like you said, it shouldn't even come up. But, a lot of these characters, especially after that Gaston video, did get very popular. For some reason, people interpreted it the wrong way and went, oh, I'm going to get him to say something mean to me, and that's going to be special and make me famous too. It's like, nah, he wasn't doing that to be fun or to be playful with you. He was doing it because he was being made very uncomfortable, and you're putting his job at risk saying those things if he doesn't shut it down in the exact correct manner.
That's where we're going to leave things off in this conversation about Disney adults with Marisa. We will continue to talk next week in episode 96. On this Thanksgiving, I wanted to thank all of you for listening. This podcast has given me so many incredible experiences and has led to some friendships that mean the world to me. We hope to continue to grow this thing in 2023. We have big plans. If I could ask you to subscribe to the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel, that would mean a lot in and of itself. We're hoping to have 500 subscribers by the end of the year, and I think it is more than possible. Just recently, I've posted videos on Star Wars Life Day at Disney's Hollywood Studios, seeing all the shows at Magic Kingdom, and I've been going all around Walt Disney World to share the holiday decorations. You can definitely expect to see videos from multiple Run Disney events, Busch Gardens in Tampa, St. Augustine, the 25th anniversary celebration at Disney's Animal Kingdom, and after hours events at both Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios in the next few months. If you're subscribed, you will get to enjoy all of that. Once again, happy Thanksgiving. Marisa and I will continue our conversation about Disney adults next Thursday in episode 96 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Until then, have a great week.